We are not licensed medical professionals. The thoughts and opinions expressed on this podcast are meant to share our experiences and not to diagnose or as a form of treatment. If you or anyone you know is currently suffering, respectfully encourage them to seek help from a licensed medical professional. The topics discussed in this podcast may be triggering for some listeners. Listener discretion is advised.
Welcome back to Now Try With Wine. I'm Des.
And I'm Mary.
And in today's episode, we want you to grab some beer.
Beer edition.
Because we have the boys on today. I have my husband, Andrew.
Hello.
And I have my husband, Robert.
Hey.
And today we're talking about gender roles. So I guess we can start off with what our roles are in each other's, or not each other's, like what our roles are together as a couple.
Oh, so like, I see. So basically, you just want us to kind of tell how our everyday lives are with each other in terms of like chores, probably like expectations and whatnot.
Yeah.
Got it.
Do you have an idea? Do you want to go first?
What of what?
How your marriage is structured. Like
how our marriage is structured. Oh,
he just gave the best description. He's like, so what are we doing?
Well, I just don't know where the conversation is
You
going.
understood the assignment, but you didn't understand the assignment.
Like, I understood the assignment, but I forgot to write down the answers kind of thing. So I guess for us, our marriage is structured to where we just like...
We're 50-50.
We're 50-50 on everything. I take care of the cooking, put away dishes, and that's it. She does all the cleaning.
Oh
yeah,
I was about to say, I saw him take out the trash earlier.
And the recycling.
We
recycle.
Cutting
Save the earth,
grass.
guys.
That's about it. It's not like she doesn't know how to cook. It's more so I like my cooking and I like things the way they are. In particular, seasoned. Oh,
he doesn't like how I cook. But it's because I don't know how to cook.
You don't use seasoning?
I do use seasoning, but like...
Salt and pepper.
Salt and pepper?
Don't say that.
This ain't a plain, steakhouse. Like,
I know.
I use lemon pepper a lot.
Oh, God.
Okay.
Pepper. And she doesn't even use salt sometimes. I'm like...
Salt's bad for you.
I need my salt.
I don't use a lot of salt.
Just buy into the, placebo of pink Himalayan salt.
Dude, that's actually farmed in India. I didn't even know that. It's not even in freaking where the Nepal, the Himalayan mountains
It's just
are.
a chemical reaction in caves. That's all it is.
Yeah, and they just market it as Himalayan salt.
That it's all natural healing.
Okay.
I think it's healing is my steak.
I didn't get to do my side.
Okay, what's yours?
I clean. So like when Andrew's done cooking, I'll clean up after him. I do the laundry, and depending if I'm super overwhelmed, I usually put away the laundry or Andrew does it. Like he'll help me. But I think for the most part we're 50-50. Like if I need help like with the dishes, I can ask you and you'll do it.
Yeah, I do the same thing, vice versa as well. So it's more like for us, it's like we have certain roles in our household, but it's more so like for me, it's the setting that expectation that just in case we need additional help for a certain chore, just in case maybe if it comes to like financial reason and whatnot, we're there for each other. That way we can provide,
Yeah, I wanted to bring like financial too, because this is our podcast and we're pretty big on that, like being open. Andrew and I don't have a joint bank account. Our thing is, if the bills are paid and you have money to put in your savings, you can do whatever the fuck you want with the rest of it.
Yeah, it's more so like we go 50-50 on everything. So she's like, okay, this is due, X amount is due, and sometimes she'll just like, most of the time actually, like she'll take care of the water bill and I'll take care of the internet bill because it's essentially about the same price either way. So it kind of works out for both of us.
Nice.
What about y'all?
Well,
we're a shit show. I'm just playing. We are not as organized about our roles in the household at all. If there's a load of laundry that needs to get done, whoever sees it does it.
Yeah. To be quite honest, I leave the washing machine door open And like
I'll throw things in there as the week goes on.
Yeah, or as like if I'm walking, I see like a jacket or a hoodie that needs to be washed. I'm like, I'm just gonna throw that shit in there.
We both kind of equally do the dishes and all the other responsibilities too. Is just because of the way our work schedules are. You guys kind of are on the same schedule, so you can make a routine.
Mm-hmm.
We're not, and Robert will even works night shifts sometimes. I work late. I also have school. Like we have a lot of responsibilities going on
within like yourselves.
Yeah, and so we don't really. There's not like an equal division of like you do this and I'll do this kind of thing. It's kind of like as it needs to get done, we'll pitch in to do it.
Mm-hmm.
The dogs especially are extremely difficult to kind of. That's one thing I think I should step up a little bit more on is helping him with the dogs, because that kind of does tend to fall on him because I don't like how they attack me. Because with him, they listen to him and they'll go outside. With me, they all want to stay with me
and say hi.
Yeah, so I try to I avoid it. But as far as our finances go, from the beginning, we've always put everything in one account. So in the beginning, I wasn't really making much, and Robert was the one who was making all of the money when we moved out.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to rely heavily on him shut up. I had to rely heavily on him in the beginning, maybe until after I graduated.
Balling at 20.
Shut up.
Was the prince of the South Side.
So we've always kind of put money in the same account. Eventually that did change for us though, where I started making a lot more than Robert did after I got my degrees and I was working in a corporate setting and Robert was still working in manufacturing. So for a lot of years I did make more than him, but it still didn't feel right to change what we've gotten used to.
Yeah.
So we always put all the money in the account, all the bills get paid out of that account.
Yeah.
And then whatever is left, we'll split between us and the savings or anything else that like household projects that we want to get done. To be honest, I handle a lot of the finances on my own. But when Robert has a question, I do present it to him as to what's in the accounts, what we have liquid. If he wants to add something, an extra bill, we talk about it.
Yeah, most of the time, I really don't give a fuck. As long as everything gets paid.
And he has some money in his pocket.
And I got some money in my pocket.
And there's money in the savings.
As long as my gas is paid, insurance, all the basic shit that we need day to day, that's really all that matters. Like Netflix, Hulu, and all that other shit. I mean, that's cool. But if it came down to it and, we needed more money in our account, I'd be like, man, just cut that shit.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty
We're lucky we haven't gotten to that point that we've had to cut things off like that, but it's because all of our money goes to pay for everything.
There's always feet pics on OnlyFans.
For an extra source of income.
Just kidding.
It doesn't hurt.
Not mine though.
I did want to point out, because Robert and I had talked about it a little bit before we were on the podcast. I still do subscribe to some of the old school Mexican gender roles as far as when a final decision needs to be made, I let Robert take it.
I tried that so many times with Andrew, and he's like, "Don't make me be the decision maker."
Yeah, I just don't like the pressure. It's more so what if it's something, because I'm a very I don't want to consider myself a people pleaser. More so, it's just I'm more mindful of what other people are and what they might feel. I kind of put their feelings forward first before mine, because quite honestly, I'm happy either way. Like whatever she wants to do, whatever, I'll support her 100%, kind of like the same way with her as well. So that's why when it comes to final decisions, I essentially already know what I want to do. And most of the time she chooses exactly what I want to do as well. So it kind of works out because we're essentially almost the same exact person.
So for me, whenever Mary brings up a big decision, I typically try to think 2 steps ahead of that decision, but I also, think about everything around me. So, just as an example, we were at Best Buy the other day and we wanted to buy a new TV, and our refrigerator kind of crapped out too. Yeah, but I have an extra one in the garage. My dad already said we can keep it because we were just storing it at our house, and it's
for 2 years,
and it's way nicer than the one we have in our fucking kitchen. So,
well, we got our first refrigerator when we first moved into the house, and we had no money.
Yeah,
hey, that fridge was real nice.
I did like that fridge, but it is not as nice as the one. It's not as new or nice as the one in the garage.
Yeah, I mean, it. So, anyways, so we were at Best Buy, and my dad had already said you can keep the fridge. And I'm still waiting for him to be like, "Hey son, I need that fucking fridge back."
Yeah, it's more so
he just
on the safe
takes
side.
it with everything in there.
He's all,
thanks for grocery shopping.
Yeah, I know, right? So, but he already said it was okay, and me, I'm still thinking like, fuck, I still got to buy a fridge
because it's not
like, why the fuck am I looking at TVs when I know I need a fridge? And then I started thinking, it's like, well, what else do I need in my house if I'm going to spend X amount of dollars on a fucking fridge?
Might as well get other stuff.
So too, so I think 2 steps ahead of like, okay, do I really need this? Or, if I buy this, am I going to need something else for the house since I'm already here? So I start to kind of like overthink a little bit. And
Exo facto, we left the store with nothing.
Yeah.
Not a fridge, not a TV. Because then we talked ourselves out of the fridge that we liked. Because the fridges now are so expensive.
Yeah.
I haven't even looked at it.
Just for like a fucking basic ass fridge and freezer with a water or ice dispenser, you're like looking like $1,200.
Fudge.
Yeah. And then it's not even as big either.
I remember those kind of fridges were almost like $1,200, but they'll be like double doors. You got freaking 2 freezers and stuff.
Yeah, they were huge. And now it's not like that.
Like the standard fridge with just that has a freezer, single door, single freezer top, basic ice maker, you're looking like $900.
That fridge, $900.
Yeah, in a local store. Like they have the apartment size ones, which are like half the size.
Yeah, small.
And those you're looking like $450, $500.
And to be honest, at this point, because of how weird our work schedules are, we rarely even eat at home anymore.
Yeah.
It's mostly just like quick, easy food options because I'm getting home so late. I can't eat really late, so it's like whatever is there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I did want to say, at least for Andrew's, ours works too because I work from home.
Yeah.
So like, I know you said that you still focus on like gender roles yourself from the Mexican culture or Hispanic culture itself. I do the same thing. Like I'm the one that does the laundry, and Andrew's very nice with me because he'll be like, "Hey, I think you should try it this way next time," and I'm like, "Okay." Like,
but do you
I'm
fold
like,
it?
"Huh?"
But do you fold it and put it away?
No, I like stuff. I stuff it, and then
it.
like I'll like throw it on the bed and separate it and then put it away.
Yeah, we're both kind of like that. So
I
honestly,
tried like my stuff, like my undies and my bras, my pajama pants and tops. They're folded, all nice and cute. Andrew throws those bad boys in, and like when we first moved in, I would like fold them, and I was like, okay, like I'll keep doing that because I'm the one that puts it away. And the one time Andrew put it away, he just like threw them in there, and I was like, I'm not doing anything for you no more. But because I work from home, I'm able to do the laundry and I'm able to do the dishes, and that's why like I guess it works for us. Because if it was differently, like I'd be like, okay, like I need help, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I know in the past, when I started working the later shifts and Robert was getting home earlier than me, a lot of it was falling on him as far as like cleaning and taking care of the house and doing dinners. A lot of it was falling on him because by the time I would get home, it was like 7 or almost 8 sometimes.
Were you like open with your family about like how Robert was taking care of everything? Because when Andrew and I were dating and like we like finally thought about like getting married, I remember his mom was like, well, whenever Des is ready, like she can come over and I can teach her how to cook. Even though like she knew that Andrew was still living with them, so she knew that Andrew loved cooking and he loved like figuring things out on his own, you know. Or like when we got married, I told my grandma, I was like, yeah, Andrew cooks more and I clean. And she was like, why can't you do both? She was like, do you need help learning how to cook? Because I can do that for you. Like, I can help you while I'm here. I'm like, no, he just likes cooking. Like, plus, why am I going to take it away?
Yeah, it's more so because I prefer it that way. Only because I like the way, again, like I like the way certain things are, so.
Andrew's actually really fun to cook with.
Yeah, he's fun and his food's amazing.
Scenic views.
Twin Peaks.
Well, I had fun cooking with Andrew. Him and I made ramen that time.
No.
Oh, yeah.
Fucking cook with Andrew.
When we have pizza nights too.
Yeah, usually me and Andrew are the ones ending up in the kitchen helping each other with whatever. But it's because me and Andrew, we've been cooking for years. Like, I've been doing this since I was like in like the 6th or 7th grade. My mom started asking me to take over like the cooking responsibilities at the house. And I've been cooking dinners since then. So I've been pretty familiar with it. I know that it was communicated to me a lot growing up. If I wanted to be a good wife and a good mother, I had to clean, cook, run the household for my husband, dress a certain way, talk a certain way. I know when Robert and I first started dating, I would always dress up to go out with him. But then, like, after a few years, I'm like, I'm tired of it. So I wouldn't necessarily dress up all the time. And I would hear comments, you're going out with him like that. You know he's going to leave if you go out looking like that. Or
haven't left yet.
Still here.
He's all, yet.
Them sweatpants, yo.
I know one thing that has always irritated me, and we can cut this out if you don't want me to say it, but I know that his dad would make comments to me a lot about, you know, me getting up to serve Robert or him sitting at the table waiting for someone to serve him.
Just for the record, my dad is
old school
Mexican. He is from Mexico. He did run away at a young age, like I think he says 12, 13, something like that. Immigrated his way through Mexico, or not immigrated through Mexico, but immigrated to the United States, became a legal citizen through his own way. And so he raised himself kind of hard. And so he has a lot of old, hard mentalities.
But he brought those traditions from Mexico with him, and he wants the same for his children.
And which is fine, but if y'all are comfortable with one way, I think it should be more accepted.
Oh, yeah, I'm petty. Now I make a point. I never serve myself if his dad is there. He'll tell you. I'll sit there and wait for him to serve me.
Well, at least like on my end, my dad had 2 girls, and that's what I always tell everyone. So I learned how to like be a boy. Mm-hmm. So like I know how to change my tire. I know how to change my oil. I know how to like if something's like clicking in the car, I know what the little like check oil sign and check engine sign. Like I can figure it out. Would I want Andrew to do it or pay someone else to do it? Yeah. But in case I ever do need it, I have it, you know. Mm-hmm. But so when my dad found out that Andrew was cooking more than I was and like Andrew was better at it, my dad was like, oh, good for y'all. You're finding something that works. Because when I was little, my dad would do most of the cooking and my mom would like clean and vice versa, you know. So I guess like on our side, it's fine. But I know like your parents were very heavy on it that I was not cooking.
I guess because we were raised like, we were raised in, we were in border town. So essentially Mexico was like seriously like 10, 15 minutes away. It was like a drive, not too far away. So obviously you're going to have a lot of, immigrants there. So a lot of their old traditions they'll bring from Mexico. And I wouldn't even consider old. It's more of so like, it's kind of like traditional for almost every single culture or religion to have the woman take care of the house and for the man to be the head of the household. So we're at a point now where there's kind of going to be a little bit of a shift in our culture. And so it's kind of becoming the norm for women to kind of now be the head of the household, and essentially having a house husband's actually becoming normal too. So I guess with our parents and their grandparents and whatnot, just how everything around the world is changing through social media. You got many different influences
off topic
that are that are going on ahead and impacting. So a lot of our gender roles, a lot of the things that we had, going on is now becoming basically irrelevant at this point.
I think we're becoming more Americanized.
More American. Well, I wouldn't say Americanized.
It in.
Maybe it's more so not colonized. What's the word I'm looking for?
We're being equal. We're being equally treated.
No, I think.
I don't want to be treated equally. I'm dead serious. I want to be treated better.
I told Andrew.
Okay.
I've told you that before.
Yeah, I know.
I've told Andrew I can take out the trash and I can take out the recycling if I really need to. But you're just so much better at it than me.
No, that's not even where I'm getting at all. It's like more like I want to be cared for. I'm his wife. I want to be cared for.
Oh, I see your stance.
Yeah, okay. Like I'm if he is the head of our household, if a big decision needs to be made, I'm going to pressure him to make that decision. And if the answer is he doesn't know, then it's a no. Like it's gonna, like for me, the way I structured it, and it's different for everybody because you guys are totally different than what we are. Because Andrew even said he defers to you. So I think in a certain sense, you make the final decision. Mm-hmm. And in ours, it's the other opposite way. And it's not because, I hate when people make it seem like it's because you're a weak person. That's why you defer to the other person. No, I trust the other person to make the right choice.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's what I'm doing with Robert. I trust Robert to make the right choice. He'll listen to my point of view on it. And I know he takes that into consideration before he tells me how he's going to go about resolving the issue. And it's like for bigger things, like how we're going to spend our money that year, or how where we're going to go on vacations, or like if someone's wedding's coming up, how much money we're going to give. Like that gets deferred to Robert.
I just flip a coin. I'm just kidding.
Hope it's a no. Flips.
But because I give him that power, I also expect him to take care of me.
Yeah.
So I think it's just different for everybody.
Yeah, I think that in a relationship, especially when it comes to like gender roles, is just set up expectations, kind of going ahead and know your partner, kind of understand who they are as a person, and kind of, I guess we'll just work around them as well, because
once you get like really big into the relationship.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, obviously, if you're just like, just dating, but if you're courting, dating to get married, then
courting.
Yeah, that's the word.
To be honest, I've never been a person who dates just to date.
Yeah, me neither.
I wasn't either.
I think I always took things more seriously, and I'm like, you were in high school, fool. But then look at how I'm married.
I know, I married my high school sweetheart.
Yeah.
I guess when it comes to also our family as well, like what do you guys notice like growing up as a family compared to other families? Like, small things in terms of like what their jobs were in the household.
New age parents ain't wiping that ass.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have to agree. That's kind of frustrating. Not that like, but I did show Desiree a TikTok that made me kind of question my stance on this, because for a while I was always like, to get the kids' attention, spank them.
Oh, we're talking about, I'm going to be honest, I could not hear.
Oh, we can edit that out then.
So,
I'll repeat myself.
Spanking?
Mm-hmm. Spanking. Like, because Robert was talking about how with this new age parenting where they're not hitting their kids. Yeah. And I was like, just spank the little shit. Like, I'm getting frustrated watching.
It's because they're kids. They can't necessarily like process, information that way. Like kids are more visual learners, and it's been proven in many studies. So obviously a hit is...
So what you're saying is I need to have a stuffed toy and get shit out of that?
Whoa.
So I showed Desiree a TikTok a couple days ago that I sent her where there was a guy pretending to be a kid and he was spanking him. He goes, "Why are you spanking me?" He's like, "Because you're not doing what you're supposed to do." So he's like, "So if I see someone else not doing what they're supposed to do, does that mean I get to spank them?" And he was like, "No, I'm your parent." He goes, "So it's okay for an authority figure to hit me if I'm not doing what I'm supposed to do."
That's a fucking smart ass kid.
No, that was the whole comment though, because me and Des have talked about this in previous episodes.
Kid's too dangerous. He's too smart.
He's gonna be a menace to society.
Okay, but again, these are the subliminal messaging we're giving our children when we treat them that way.
Yeah, I will say in the Latino culture, we're very big on spanking. Mm-hmm. I know that. I mean, I do it to my nephews,
Yeah, discipline's very kind of like...
important.
Yeah, very important.
But I will say, like, at least for me, and I hope for every other parent, it is the last resort.
Yeah.
Like, it's really like, I have told you 3 or 4 times now, no, and why we can't do that right now, because you can get hurt. And if, like, there's some kids that will, like, do that specific thing you told them no, and they'll look at you the whole time to see, like, how far can I push you?
I'm thinking once they get past a certain age, it should change to a conversation. But I think when they're little, they're not making those connections because they're not thinking about it that way.
Exactly.
I agree with you, but, like, I've seen so many TikToks of, like, kids that are, like, 2 and 3, and they're not having full conversations, but the parent will be like, no, because you can get hurt. You can get an ouchie. And they're like, oh, okay. And they'll do it, Yeah. Obviously, not every kid is the same.
Yeah, I think the conversation that you're talking about should happen first, but last resort.
Yeah.
They're going to have to make a point to get their attention again.
And it depends on the kid too also. I mean, TikTok is more so they're kind of setting an expectation of how every child should be. But in reality, it's not like that. You tell that to another kid who was raised completely different, maybe in a completely different household. They're not able to grasp that, so they're going to continue because it's not necessarily that they don't care. It's more so like, oh, this kind of brings me joy, this kind of brings me happiness or whatnot. So for me, it kind of sends like a false narrative because it's not true. Come on. I mean, in rare cases, yes. And in that case, she records it, she posts it on TikTok, and guess who? To the masses. So everyone essentially believes like, oh, it's working for them. Why isn't it working for us? And in that way, they kind of, I don't know. For me personally, I think spanking and disciplining is very necessary because it kind of builds a respect for your parents as well, because they're the ones that essentially know what's best for you. I grew up that way with like, spanking, making sure I don't do certain things if not I get hurt. But as I got older, I then started to understand like, oh, okay, if I did this, I was the one that was going to, excuse me, I was the one that was going to get hurt, or I was the one that was going to hurt the family that way. So, you know, when you get older, you start to then make those connections. And
well, you see how you said it? You're thinking of your family.
Well, yeah, but it was just more so an example. I mean, I'm pretty sure everyone else is like that as well. I mean,
I was not thinking like that.
You weren't thinking like that?
Like, if I was getting in trouble, it's because I did something wrong.
Mm.
You know, I wasn't thinking like...
Or I embarrassed some...
Yeah, I'm like disrespecting my family.
Well, for my family, it's more so like, hey, this is why... When I got older, obviously, like, once I hit, like, probably middle school, they stopped spanking. It's just more so like, hey, you're doing this, which is wrong because of this. And they kind of set that expectation.
I think it also depends on, like, your family.
The
parent, but your family
also.
structure, because... Let's be honest. There's some kids out there that like, fucking hit me again. I don't give a shit.
Yeah.
Like, there's some kids that are just like, I don't give a fuck who spanks me.
My brother got to that point.
I think it also depends too, like, on your gender itself. Like, at least like for my sister and I, my dad, he would always say like, you can fear me or you can respect me. I don't care which one I have.
I think he would have said that if you were a boy too, to be honest with you.
Well, that, and then also, like, even when I would get in trouble in, like, middle school and high school, and the same thing for my sister, well, my dad's like, until you leave my house, I will hit you, you know? I can still hit you.
I mean, I got a sister, too, and you guys probably know who it is, because it's us, you know, but she's fucking hard-headed like my dad, and they always be fucking bumping heads and shit, and she's tough, you know?
Yeah.
But, I mean, I'm sure there was a point in time in her life where, you know, getting spanked, you know, as a kid or whatever, because she acted out, didn't mean shit anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, even for me, it didn't, you know, my dad spanked me and I think I turned out all right.
I also think that, I also think that the conversations that are being had in our culture aren't correct.
Yeah.
Because I can think of many instances where my mom was getting mad at me about something, but she was so angry about what I did that she wasn't talking to me about how to fix what was going on. It was just like talking down to me and making me feel like stupid and even worse about the situation, rather than explaining to me why this is wrong, how we can fix it going forward. Like having an actual conversation. It was just a screaming match where I was the recipient, not a conversation where I was a participant.
Yeah.
I do want to bring up too, like, how work can affect you too. Because my dad has... He's always been the breadwinner in my family's, like, dynamic. So I'm sure this will give us away. My dad was working in the oil field for a really long time, like 5 to 10 years maybe. I can't really remember off the top of my head. But, like, he would, like, get frustrated at work and then would come home and, like, throw it on my sister, my mom, and I, you know? And we actually just recently talked about this because I was telling him about, like, a specific topic on the podcast, and he was like, I was frustrated at my job for shit that wasn't even my problem, but I would come home frustrated because I didn't know how to, like, turn it off, and I would come home and you girls just haven't done the dishes yet. Like, we always, like, make fun of this specific like, memory we have. My mom asked us to do the dishes, and I told her I would. Let me do it after we do our homework. And she was like, okay, that's no problem. She goes upstairs and my dad gets home and sees that the dishes aren't done. I'm sure, like, my dad called my mom and was like, I'm on my way home. Did you tell the girls to do anything? So when he got home, he saw that we hadn't done the dishes yet. And he started yelling at my sister. And I told him, I was like, Mom said that we could do it after we finish our homework. And he was like, I don't give a fuck about your homework. I want this house clean when I get home. So he, like, grabbed the homework, like, off the thing and, like threw it into our pantry. He was like, do the fucking dishes and then you can do your homework. And so now when I tell him about it, he's like, why would I do that? Like, you know how much I love education and stuff. But I was like, Dad, you were frustrated that day. Like, you got home already pissed off at work and then you see that something's not done. You just kind of, like, threw it on us. I was like, obviously now I'm totally okay with it and we laugh about it and we make jokes, but I wanted to bring that in gender roles too, because I feel like, at least in the Hispanic culture, men have to be the breadwinner. And my dad was working a good job making good money, but it fucking affected our family dynamic hugely.
He was not at home a lot too. So it's more so like he was always gone. He'll come home super late, like around 7 or 8. and then he'll go straight to bed right after he eats and does it all over again. So
yeah,
there's almost no time off.
More money, more problems.
Yep.
But you know what? There was a similar instance like that from my dad, and it was when Mary and I were transitioning into buying a house. I think we had just left our first lease apartment, and we had moved back in with my parents for a while, just to kind of get some money saved up and jump into another apartment. And
no, we were saving for a house.
we were saving for a house, something of that nature. I forgot what it was, but I think I was cooking dinner or finished cooking dinner, and my dad had came home from work. Same thing, oil field. And he was pissed off that the fucking garbage hadn't been taken out. So I told him, I was like, all right, Dad. I was like, well, I'll take it out. Let me just finish eating. I'm already almost done. And I'll take it out. And he just started fucking going on a rant over throwing out the fucking garbage. I was like, all right, Dad. So I fucking got up, put my plate down, grabbed the fucking garbage, tossed it out, put a new garbage bag in. And he's like, see, that's not that hard, is it? I was like, no, it wasn't. Yeah, it's not supposed to. I'm like, yeah, I know. And like it's like he wanted an argument to take place, but I didn't give him that satisfaction. I was like, all right, it's done. Can I go eat my food now?
Yeah.
And when I'm done, I'll go fucking clean the kitchen too.
I feel that way sometimes too. When I was working, I was working at a call center, and for me it was just client after client after client. Like I had like no rest for myself.
Schedule.
Yeah, I had like my schedule was from like 12 o'clock all the way to like I think it was like 9:30. And I didn't even have time to hang out with Des at all. So for me, it was just always constantly like, oh my God, I'm so fucking tired of this shit. Like, I just want the day to be over. So I never had time for myself at all either. And so every time I would go downstairs, I always come in a pissy mood because now I kind of understand where, our parents were coming from. You worked a super stressful job. Mind you, mine wasn't even compared to what our parents gone through. Our parents worked really hard. They're working on the oil fields. That's like 100 times worse. You have all this work just not going for you, not going your way. Everything's like to shit. So when you get home, you're like, okay, well, at least, my home is like, nice and neat. I'm going to just sit down, relax, just because it's been a long day at work. And then you come home to find out a lot of the things that are basic chores that we don't see are not done. So unfortunately, because of all the outrage you're experiencing, unfortunately, humans have to de-stress somehow. So they rant, they yell. I'm not saying an excuse to do that. It's more of so I somewhat understand what they're going through.
There's a lot of pressure going on because they have to take care of the family.
I can see that for the man's side, but the woman's side, at least like in my family, as soon as my mom got off of work, she just had to switch hats. She was a mom now. She had to, if my dad wasn't home, as soon as she got home, she had to start cooking. Then she started cleaning until like we were older and we could start helping, But my mom really didn't have time for herself, at least that I saw.
I remembered and I had an argument about this a few years ago. I worked at a job that was downtown and it was really close to my house. So it would only take me 10, 15 minutes to get home. And as soon as I got home, I'd start cooking dinner. But when I transitioned out of that job into a new job, that Robert would get home way before I did, and he wouldn't immediately start cooking dinner. He'd go play his video games, go to the bathroom, take a shower, for a couple hours, and then start cooking. So dinner was never ready when I got home late. So then I was getting frustrated because I know it's possible for you to get home and go right into the next thing. And I felt like he was doing it to be lazy because in our culture, I'm not trying to be offensive to Robert, but in our culture, women are told you take care of everybody else and then yourself.
Yeah.
So when I got home, if I don't cook, I don't clean, I don't get things ready for him, he's not going to have a nice home to come home to, and that's going to be my fault.
He's going to be upset with me.
Right.
First of all, I have a penis.
What
Second
the
of
fuck?
all,
it's large.
I needed to.
Oh my God.
It's got a 3.5-inch girth. I'm just kidding. What? No, we'll edit that out. Anyways, when I got home from work, I had time to think and be like, well, fuck it. I'm just gonna play some video games, decompress, do shit that I want to do, and then maybe like 30 minutes before Mary gets home, I'm gonna just start cooking and cleaning and all this shit. I was always late.
But it's just a difference in like how we were raised, because it was communicated to me in a lot of ways, subtly and directly, that if I wanted to be a good wife and a good partner to you, you had to come first and all of your needs had to come first, as opposed to me decompressing and then waiting for you to come home before I started cooking. Like, everyone needed to be taken care of on their schedule, not my schedule.
Yeah, same thing. I think Andrew and I actually had this conversation before, because I told him, I was like, well, I grew up where like whichever parent figure was home was the one that was cooking and cleaning, you know? And Andrew's like, no, my mom is always the one that cooks. But you were telling me that your dad's not really fond of the gender role norm.
It's only because he was raised in a household of 9. So he had about 7 siblings. So my grandma couldn't keep up with that many children, and quite frankly, I don't know how our grandparents did it when they had like 10, 13 plus, you know, it's ridiculous. Yeah, but for my dad, because they worked they were migrant workers, so they worked in the fields like up in Washington, Oregon, whatnot. So for them, it's more so their parents were still out in the field, and the kids, they're already done with work. They were the ones that had to take care of like cooking, cleaning, all that, because they were already home first. So with my dad, he kind of grew up with that mentality, and when he got with my mom,
like everyone helps.
Yeah, everyone helps, and that's the way we were raised, and I was raised with my family. You know, hey Andrew, you need to take out this. You need to make sure your room is clean. You need to do all this. My mom will be on top of it. My dad was also, you know, would help her with that as well. My dad would sometimes cook sometimes, or, you know, everyone was always doing something. It wasn't necessarily like, oh, only the women do all this, us guys, we could just chill or whatnot. And it was a very common thing to do, but for my dad, it wasn't like that.
My grandparents had the same kind of upbringing, or my grandmother did, and there was still heavy on the gender roles, that the men worked harder, so the women did the cleaning and the cooking and all of that stuff. And that was kind of embedded in my grandmother, that regardless of anything, I think because you're growing up in that kind of poverty, everyone has to have a role. There's no one who gets exempt from having a role. And so even as they get older and they get out of that poverty and they're starting to have their own money, we still have those experiences that we're carrying with us, that how we got through that period was through a family environment.
Yeah.
And us all pitching in together.
I mean, you can see when we have like family get-togethers, the women are the ones still in the kitchen, like getting everything ready. Either the boys are outside, like tending to the meat on the barbecue,
or just sitting around. Yeah. And it's okay. Like, and like the party decorating, when have you ever decorated a party or planned it or organized it?
I cleaned the bathroom for the party.
I think because it's more so everyone has expectations for each other, so everyone knows what our roles are. So every time we have get-togethers, it's, you know.
I ain't the fucking creative, decorative one. I'll throw in some ideas, be like, yeah, that'd be cool if you had some fucking balloons or whatever.
But, no. But you're never even
but
expected.
I'm not the one.
You at least give us a theme. Like this year, you were like Matrix.
Oh yeah, for your birthday.
Yeah. Well, before the Matrix, it was
We do cool shit for your birthday
Batman.
every year.
No. Like, instead of the Matrix, I wanted to do a different party thing.
I think it was Predator.
Go to Peter Piper's.
I think he wanted to watch the Predator movie.
Oh, that's right.
And then go to Peter Piper's. But then I couldn't get a table at Peter Piper's because all of them were booked, because he didn't tell me this until a few days before his actual birthday.
No, you know what? It was Blade.
It was he wanted to watch an action film with all his friends and then go have pizza at Peter Piper Pizza, which was fine. But of course, he doesn't tell me this till the last minute. So I didn't have time to book everything.
Well, see how she throws that on you?
Gender role, I just
how you
assumed
throw
she'd
that
be
on her?
fucking ready to pounce.
I'm going to be honest, Robert does have that expectation of me that whenever he comes up with an idea, that I should be able to execute it.
I agree with Robert because you always do it.
Yeah, because he has that expectation of me.
Yeah, because you've made it an expectation.
Look, you raised the bar against yourself.
Exactly.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
He just got accustomed to it, is all.
Andrew, I get so mad. Like, I'll be like, oh, my family's coming over this weekend, and like let's get all this done. And for some reason, I'll clean everything, and I'm so mad at him. I'm like, I asked you to do the fucking bathroom, and it's not done. He's like, chill, they're gonna be here in like an hour, bro. I'll get it done before
You should have
then.
just been like, I don't know why you're tripping. Somebody just gonna take a fat shit like as soon as they get here.
Don't even make a joke like that, because when people come over to our house, you see how we treat guests. The house is top to bottom clean.
Yeah.
There's food, appetizers, the main course, dessert, second desserts, and snacks after dessert.
Not including cake.
Not including cake.
Yeah, we
Jesus
always have
Christ.
cake.
Yeah, but when we throw a party, we provide everything: the food, the alcohol, the snacks, blankets, the dog to cuddle with, for God's sake. But that's how I was raised. That when you're taking care of a guest, you go all out.
Go above
Yeah, I
and
do.
beyond.
I mean, y'all see it like how I was Christmas. Like, I didn't even watch half of the movie, The Violent Night.
Yeah.
Because I was like, do y'all want snacks? I have popcorn. You want popcorn? Does everyone want hot cocoa? Like, you know? I don't know. I agree. That's how we were raised as women. Because I'll be honest, I've never seen Andrew or Robert ever do that.
No, that's
Unless
popcorn.
I tell him, like, I'm like, Andrew, I need help. And he's like, oh, okay.
yeah, the same with us. Robert will help with like if I force him to sit down and help me come up with like a menu and stuff, but execution is still on me.
Now, how much of that mentality of being like in that role is actual like indoctrination
That's a big word.
versus like actual psychological like implementation? You know what I mean?
I see what you're saying.
Well,
Like,
I've al-
how much
I
of that
agree.
is like stuff that you saw from your own mom,
Yeah.
your own dad,
And how much is
and then how much
something
did you
both?
pick up on it and
Yeah.
be like, I need to be that way?
I think it's half and half. Because y'all have gone to my parents' house. My dad is either sitting there talking with everybody or up and making the food. And the vice versa with my mom. She's doing the same thing. I'm not really sure why I picked up where I'm the only one that has to do it. I think also, one, I'm a people pleaser. And two, I like everything to be perfect. Which is like another reason why I clean. Like, Andrew understands that I clean a specific way to make sure that it's done correctly. Like, Andrew did like a really nice thing one time. I got home, he's like, hey, I mopped. And I was like, thank you so much. And I like looked at the kitchen. I was like,
I wanna
did
mop
you
again.
sweep? And he was like, am I supposed to do that afterwards? Or am I supposed to like sweep? I was like, yeah, you have to sweep and then mop. I fucking did it again. And I'm sure in Andrew's eyes it looked like he wasn't important, like he did something that was like unnecessary, like, oh, she's just gonna fucking do it, why would I do it again, you know? But in my eyes, I'm like, oh, he didn't do it correctly, let me just do it real quick. Like, I don't know how to
'cause
explain it.
Essentially, all my work went down the drain.
I would have
That's
been
what I
like,
saw.
thanks for fucking walking on my clean floor after you're doing it
You looked
again.
at it, now it's dirty.
No, when we're throwing parties, Robert's pretty hands-on with like, I have to execute as far as getting all the materials and stuff to our house and structuring everything and inviting everybody.
I'm more task oriented.
Yeah, once I get everything to the house, we will divvy up like, okay, you're going to cook this part of the food. I'm going to cook this part of the food. You straighten up this half of the house. I'll straighten up this half of the house. And then when the party happens though, forget it. Robert's gone. There is a graduation party. I want to say Robert and I were like heavily mixing drinks again. We just bought our house. We were super excited to host it. I had a thermos, a Yeti cup full of like vodka and orange juice and cranberry juice. And I was just drinking that all day while I was cleaning. Robert was with the same Yeti cup, but with just straight up Jack Daniels, a little bit of Coke on top. And we were like that, cleaning and laughing and having so much fun, blasting music in the house. By the time people got to our house
fucking
for the
drunk.
party, Robert was like,
Drunk.
he was God. He was so God. He dropped all the food out of the oven on the floor. And he was like, oh shit. And
I don't remember any
he
of that.
picked it up with his hands and threw it in the sink.
He was like, man, my hand is burning.
Every time one of my brothers passed by him, he was grabbing their ass.
Oh my god.
He was having way too much fun. I asked him to plug something in behind the TV. He just shoved the cords behind the TV and walked off. And by 8:30, he was in bed.
I think our dynamic is good too. I agree with Mary and Robert. Andrew's very task oriented at himself, but he's very forgetful.
Oh yeah, very forgetful.
I have to like tell you like 3 or 4 times.
It's not that like I don't. Well, it's not that I don't remember. It's more so I tend to like get distracted with other tasks as well because If I see something, if I see something, I'm like, oh, let me just take care of this real quick, or oh, what's his name's online, let me just get on real quick. It'll be like 2 minutes, and then I'll completely forget about the other task, and then I'm just like, god damn it.
Like I'll go to my garage to go dump some shit, like laundry or something, and I see something like, fuck, I gotta wash this too, and I start like separating laundry.
Yeah.
I'm like, and Mary's like, where the fuck are you? And I'm like, I'm sorry, I was in the garage. What the fuck are you doing in the garage?
There is this one time my dad was coming over for dinner and the house was a mess. I couldn't find him for like 30 minutes and I went to the garage. He was organizing it.
Wow.
I was so mad. I was like, my dad's going to be here in like 20 minutes and you've been out here organizing the garage for like 30 minutes.
I saw this TikTok and it like matches Andrew and I perfectly. It was like hosting a get together, wife inside cleaning, husband outside trimming, or what is it, cleaning the gutters, because apparently that's what we need to do for a party.
Yeah, I guess we just get distracted, like, because there's some tasks that's the thing, if we see it that it needs to get done, we'll do it then and there, because we're gonna forget about that as well.
Yeah, and again, it's like what I mentioned just a few minutes ago, how much of it is like a cultural indoctrination of what your gender role should be versus how much of it is actual like psychological implementation. So, like Andrew and I, we walked into the garage to go put something away or whatever, and then you see something like, fuck, I need to get that done right now.
Yeah. Because
you're already in that mind state that I'm cleaning, I'm organizing, oh shit, that I need to add that to my list.
Might as well add it on. Yeah.
And then you get sidetracked, and then then you guys come in level-headed and like, where the fuck are y'all?
Well, can I ask both of y'all, at least, like, obviously I grew up with Robert, and y'all always had the parties at y'all's house. When it was, like, time to clean before the party, were you helping? And then Andrew, yourself, like, were you helping?
Video games.
When it came to...
very heavily, Robert's mom takes care of everything. His mom takes care of everything. The food, cleaning. The girls would help her when I was living with them for a few months before, we moved into our apartment. We were planning on staying in a house, but I think our biggest issue during that point was I was butting up against their very rigid cultural, the wife should be doing X, Y, and Z. The husband's doing X, Y, and or A, B, and C.
Yeah.
And it was kind of becoming uncomfortable. Because I felt like because his parents, again, in Mexican culture, everyone feels like they can comment on your life and about how you're structuring yourself. And so it just got to the point where I got uncomfortable when we had to move out. But when I was there, that was very much how Robert was raised. He wasn't expected to help with anything really until like the trash needed to be taken out or just cleaning up after himself. It wasn't like he needed to scrub the bathroom. Like I did that.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, because of how you were raised, do you think that's why you're the way you are? I'm just kidding. No, like that's how, when I'm like, okay, I need you to do the bathroom, and then you put something away in the garage, you're like, what's a bathroom? I need to do the garage.
It's not, for me, it's not just that, but I guess when you're raised for something for so long, like kind of like what Mary was saying, kind of to add to that, you just kind of get used to it. You kind of get accustomed to it. Kind of like also what Robert was bringing up. Was it more of a psychological thing because you saw other family members do it? Or is it something that you're just simply so used to doing to the point where it's just like completely normal? And for other people, it may seem like abnormal because why is the woman doing everything? Or why is the man taking care of womanly deeds? Like, is that wrong? Well, for me, I don't think so. I think it's more so it depends on the household. Like, because each household is run differently, kind of like our household is run differently from y'all's. So at a certain point, it's up to the wife or the husband, or it's up to the, I'm sorry, up to the spouse and the other spouse if it's okay for certain roles to be taken care of and kind of set up that expectation for each other. That way you guys don't really necessarily bump heads or whatnot, but each house is run differently, and I think we all should kind of respect that in that term.
Mm-hmm. And to be quite honest, like like me in particular, like I'm kind of an oddball compared to my my siblings, because if I need to get something done, like I'm just gonna do it. Mary does everything that I ask of her very well, but don't get me wrong, if she couldn't do anything, I'm more than capable of taking it, up that mantle and getting it done. Like back to the financial thing, I make this joke that I just make the money and Mary pays the bills, right? But if it came down to where we split up, divided, or whatever, I can fucking handle my bills. I mean, I can do all that. That's not a problem. Cooking and cleaning. Am I laxed about it? Sure. But when it comes down to doing it, I can do it. You know, and part of that is because like my parents, my mom, my dad, they're like, don't rely on a fucking woman to take care of you the rest of your life because you can, you know, the truth is you can marry a fucking, you know, worthless woman who's just eye candy.
Doesn't know how to cook.
Yeah, you can marry a worthless woman that you love, you know, and is just, you know, eye candy, and that's it. And I know that sounds fucked up because no woman should be worthless, but you know, or man or spouse or
in our culture, it's a big thing.
Yeah. If they don't meet cultural expectations,
yeah,
they're viewed that way.
They're viewed as worthless.
Honestly,
depending on the culture, yeah.
Like in my family, everyone loves Andrew. And in his eyes, bro.
Are you a number one husband too?
Yes, Andrew can do no wrong in my family.
That's me and her family.
I remember him meeting my grandma, my dad's mom, and she was like grabbing Andrew's arm and was like, "Look at his muscles."
That's when I was kidding.
Dude, there's like a
what
fucking glow when I walk into her grandparents' house.
But I just don't understand. And the same thing, like Andrew works in IT. Everyone fucking loves him because he works in IT. But that's another thing too I wanted to add. Andrew doesn't work like a construction job or like in the oil field. He doesn't work a quote unquote man job. So like at least like in my family, they're okay like with Andrew's job because he's the IT guy. If you ever need questions, you go to Andrew. But they're like, well, does he know how to like cut wood? Does he know how to like stain?
I know how to get wood. That's your answer, Andrew. That's your answer.
Well, it's crazy because like I love DIYing. Like I redid the bathroom. My dad and I. Andrew helped me, but I told him I was like, yo, if you're not really into it, that's totally fine. This is something I wanted to do.
That's awesome because there's a lot of relationships out there that don't have that type of dialogue going on.
Well, but I wanted to bring up that a lot of, I'm not sure on his family, but like on my family, they're like, why are you doing that? Shouldn't Andrew be doing that? You know?
Mm-hmm.
Because he's the man. He's supposed to be getting his hands dirty.
Yeah.
And to be honest, like it know your strengths and your weaknesses.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
I like what Robert said one time. We had a family relative when Robert was really proud of me because I got a good bump at work and he was bragging about my pay to other people. And when we had a family member tell him, you allow her to make more money than you. And Robert's all, hold on. I don't allow her to do anything. She makes more money than me. I'm allowing her to do anything. This is how she is. Mm-hmm. And they were totally confused by why he would feel comfortable with that.
Yeah, like I'm not losing any fucking sleep. More money is more money. Like,
yeah,
get the fuck over it. If your fucking significant other makes more money than you, who the fuck cares?
Yeah, either way,
bills are getting paid.
You're buying a little extra money.
Yeah, you got extra money in your fucking account. You know, you're happy. She's happy. What does it matter? Mm-hmm. And for some people, I guess that would be, something that is a blow at their ego. It doesn't fucking hurt me.
Yeah, I think that's something people need to understand too. And
we're
competitive. We're competitive. So for me, it's more so if she makes more money, then I'm like, okay, I need to look for another job or I need to try to get a raise or whatnot. And for me, we're always like kind of, in a race of just like bumping up. But kind of like what Robert was saying, I think now more than ever, people just need to respect how other households are run, and simply it's completely normal now.
If obviously it works for the other household.
Yeah,
so be it.
Exactly, because it wasn't running like that before, but now it's like equality is essentially almost there, and we're seeing it now more than ever. Quite honestly,
I mean, like, Andrew and I always make this joke. I don't really want to have kids. Andrew wants to have kids, so I told him, I was like, all right, if we have kids, you finna be a stay-at-home daddy because I am not.
I'm perfectly fine with that. I'm like, kids on my lap. I'm here with PS5.
And honestly, I would expect the same. I don't really like daycare, and I don't really like having someone else raise my kid. Mm-hmm. So if we're gonna get to that point, I'd like for one of us to be able to take the time off to get the kid to grade school. Mm-hmm. And to be fair, it's probably going to be Robert because I have a lot of advanced degrees. My earning potential long term is just more stable. Mm-hmm. So it would make more sense for Robert to take time off of his job and be the one at home
Andrew tells me to get my big girl job already.
Yeah.
Suck it, Joe.
I think eventually when that's on our radar again, we'll talk about it. But
really
that's
depends because I mean I'm making some really good money at my current job.
And
So.
we're having fun going. I have like 4 trips lined up this year that we're going on, and it's just like our priorities are different. And I think that's confusing to a lot of our family members because I'm going to be honest, most of my side of the family already had their kids by this point.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And a lot of them are confused. They're like, how are you guys doing it? Like, it's simple. We bought shit that we can afford and we improved on it. Like,
we got a lot of flack from both sides of our family with the house that we picked because me and Robert when we went into it, we got approved for like
$250,000.
Yeah,
and this is pre-COVID, this is like back in 2015, 16.
Yeah, and Robert and I were looking at the payment for something that big, and I was like, oh God,
I don't want to do that shit.
Yeah, that's all of our check.
For 30 years.
Yeah, and like eventually, yes, we'd make more money, and it wouldn't be such a big deal. But at that point, we had just
gotten married. I was starting a new job.
And we just didn't see the point. So we looked for something that was like under 120 is what we were looking at because the payment would be under 1,000.
Yeah.
And I was like, we could totally do that and still live our best life and not be living paycheck to paycheck. And when we found a house that we liked, it's smaller than normal houses. It's older. It had a lot of work that needed to be done. And when people first started coming over to see it, they were like, this is what you're going to spend your money on? Like, are you kidding me? Look at this neighborhood. That neighborhood's not even bad. It's adorable.
Yeah, I live with a bunch of old retired people.
Never give us any problems.
It's fucking quiet all the time. The loudest one there is probably me with my fucking car.
Yep.
Well, I remember one time Robert and I were talking about it, and he was like, I have enough money because of the house we picked that we could renovate it. We can add more. He's like, fuck it. We could just demolish it, the whole thing, and start from new because we picked a house that we could afford and we could work on.
Yeah. And don't get me wrong, I'm sorry. Like, I don't want to come off like I'm bragging, but that's...
We both wanted the newest, nicest thing, but when we were being honest with what we wanted for ourselves in our marriage...
Yeah, because we had this talk where we were like, look, it was like we could buy something really, really fucking nice, and we'll probably, it'll be tight for a few years, or we can buy something that we can still afford and still have extra fun money and do whatever the hell we want.
Yeah, and our earning potential wasn't... we had a lot of potential, but we weren't there yet.
Yeah.
So I was like, if we can buy a house that we can afford now when we're not
it'll
that
just
great...
be even way easier down the road.
And it has been a blessing that our house payment is so low.
That's good.
And they have a pool.
Yeah.
Shit's fun as fuck.
Dude. That's right. I mean, that's kind of like... It kind of brings roundabouts back to our culture because... Unfortunately for Hispanics, many in the Latin community,
newest.
Yeah, we want the newest, we want the
greatest.
greatest, we want, everything that we can show off to our friends, new boots, hats, etc., new trucks, it's always more like
plays into their roles.
Yeah, and it kind of just shows like, oh, look what I'm doing. What are you doing? It kind of shows how competitive the environment is. And
you know what?
Because as a man, you're right, Andrew, because as a man, that plays in as your status, in your role as a man, as a provider, head of your household.
Yeah.
That's in older Mexican cultures. I mean, that's fucking huge. Exactly. And if you're not in that latest and greatest, you're not providing. You're not doing enough for your family.
Yeah, exactly.
And it kind of broke my heart too because we were the youngest people in both of our families to purchase a home completely on our own. Like I was only 22, 23 when we bought our house. That was totally not even acknowledged because the house was so small, it needed all this work done to it. No one really acknowledged what a big accomplishment for us as Latinos to be this young and purchasing our own home and not having to live with relatives or anything like that. That was completely dismissed. How old were we,
like 22?
I think we were 22 and 23.
Yeah, when I bought my house.
Dang.
Dude, I didn't even know that.
Yeah.
I remember y'all buying the house. I just never I didn't know how old you were. Ours is we don't have kids.
Yeah.
We got married in October of 2022 and we don't have a kid yet. And that is all we're getting right now.
Yeah. It's not like we don't want kids either because we've entertained the fact, quite honestly, but at the same time it's like we're kind of bringing in a kid in a very, very bad situation currently.
It's not like we're in a bad
No, financially we're okay, but it's just more so
we can't afford it.
I
mean we can't afford it. We don't even have a house.
Yeah, we don't have a stable a stable place for them.
This reminds me of the conversation about when I wanted to get married the first time and you said no.
Oh, yeah.
Des knows the story.
Well, it's just more so like, I know how y'all are saying like everyone already had their like kids and everyone had their houses. Y'all did it all on your own. Everyone expects us to have a baby as soon as we got married.
Yeah. It's so
at least like
common.
in our culture. I've gotten like already like 3 like, oh, do you have any news for us yet? And I'm like, yeah, Andrew and I are saving for a house. What else? My kids, my Pokemon plushies.
It's fucking huge.
But I don't know, like.
But having the foresight to do it in the right time is something that I don't think was taught to people when they were younger. Mm-hmm. So like I was telling Des, when me and him, Robert, first moved in together, like it was the year I moved out of my mom's house, I thought we'd get married right away because that made sense to me. If we're going to be living together, we might as well get married. Yeah. And so I kept asking Robert and asking him, and he kind of like would give me like, not right now, later, not right now, later, like answers. And then finally, like, I lost my shit. And I was like, because I thought that, like, I was doing something wrong. And that's why he didn't want to marry me. So I got really mad and started yelling at him. And it got really, really heated. And, like, finally, he's like, you know what, Mary? He's like, I work in, like, a manufacturing job. We're living in a shared apartment because we had a roommate at the time because we just moved out. He's like, we barely have enough money to cover the bills. I'm very proud that we never took money from anybody that first couple years we moved out. We didn't need anybody's help because we lived within our means. So he was like, we have nothing really that much in the savings. He's like, I have nothing to offer you. He goes, if I married you right now, I have nothing to give you. I don't have a house. I don't have like financial stability for you. He's like, I want to marry you. This isn't because I don't want to. He's like, but right now I have nothing to offer you.
Yeah, I felt that exact same way, actually.
Damn,
I never told Des, but yeah.
And this was you at like 20 or 21 when we moved out.
Yeah. It's kind of like the norm because when you get married, culturally, it's like, oh, you're getting married because you already have the job. You're already, covering a lot of stuff. And quite honestly, if you weren't able to, then you will just live with your parents. But that was such a norm to the point where like it was embedded in my head that I can't marry this woman unless I am financially stable or unless I'm able to provide for her.
Actually, we had like a heated argument ourselves.
Yeah.
We were already 6 years into our relationship. And, you've already met Priscilla. She was on the podcast a couple of weeks ago. He asked me, and I'm not even kidding, the last day of August 31st. I told Priscilla that in September, I did not care. At the time, Andrew was let go of his job. I didn't care about any of that. What I cared about is that we were together for 6 years, and all he would give me is like, it'll happen one day. So to me, like, it felt like he would just like push it away, like, we'll get married when we get married. And another thing, Andrew would always tell me, marriage it's just a paper, Des. It's just a paper. So in my head, I was like, he doesn't want to marry me. So I told Priscilla the first week of September, I was going to have a talk with him and figure out, like, what are we? Because I just spent 6 years of my life. And if you're not going to marry me, then I need to keep looking.
Which is kind of fucked.
I know. I'm sorry.
So
but in my head, I agree with Mary.
That is like,
I'm looking for marriage. And I want to spend my whole life with you. But how you were giving it to me, you were like, we're gonna do it, so why do I have to like put a ring on it and go to the government? I like that we and Robert finally had that conversation. It didn't happen overnight. It took a long time before he had that conversation with me, but he didn't just set expectations for himself either. He was like, when we get married, I don't want to be living with anybody. I want both of us to have full-time stable jobs. And he's like, and you need to be done with school. He's like, we're not gonna get married until all of those things have happened. And it hurt.
I also didn't want her family to be like, oh, you guys got married and she abandoned her plans to go to school and make something or something.
Yeah.
Blah, blah, blah. How many degrees you got, babe?
This will be my third one.
Oh.
It was because your family is very judgmental.
Yeah, and I think that because of, I don't want to be ugly, but what happened with my mom had a full ride for school and gave it up to follow my dad and marry my dad and have me, which I'm grateful she did because I wouldn't be here. But I think my family was traumatized by that experience. So, and because I'm her daughter, they held me that I'm going to do the exact same thing.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't hear your side of the story.
Of what?
Because you said that.
Yeah, so essentially kind of like the same thing they were going through, just with Robert, just financially felt it was not comfortable for me to at the time I was not able to provide for you. And that's the sole reason as to why I didn't want to get married, because we set up an expectation for a lot of others, because everyone sees like, oh, you're getting married. Oh, you must have a good job. Or, oh, you're freaking, you know, yeah. And it was so normal.
Either you got a good job.
Yeah, you'll see all
you
the
got
fancy,
her pregnant.
Yeah. You'll see all the fancy decorations in these weddings. You'll see a lot of stuff like, oh, they made it because, you know, the wedding's nice and etc. In reality, if whatever's behind that curtain, it's quite the opposite. They're struggling. They're in debt, you know, and I didn't know this apparently, but it's just more of like a mask they put on just to kind of show other people like, yeah, we have it made. And unfortunately, that's not the truth. And I thought that was the actual reality that they were living, because they were financially stable, and that's why they were able to do those things. And for me, I didn't want to put you in that situation to where like, how am I supposed to provide for you and do all this, you know, if I'm not able to bring you happiness whatsoever. So it didn't make sense to marry you at the time, but I told you I wanted to marry you, but
He's not being a provider.
yeah, I'm not being a provider. And I thought that's what it meant when you got married, was simply to provide for your family.
Honestly, though, Andrew, I hold that expectation through our marriage. I expect that Robert's going to be a contributing, active member of our family.
Oh, yeah. I'm not saying, like,
no,
don't be a
but
provider.
I get what you mean, but
yeah.
I mean, like, it grows over time. So in
Yeah.
the beginning, we're not making the money we're making now at all. And over time, it grew. But they make it seem like you have to already be there at the end line when you get married. And I don't think that's true. We grew, like, I think that our marriage is stronger because we struggled so much together before, you know, in our early years of marriage. Because after we bought the house, yeah, we had extra money, but we went straight into trying to have a kid because we're still trying to fit that cultural expectations into our life.
It could be also how you grew up. My family, like my parents had me before they got married. I was in the wedding photo. What's up? I was in my mom's tummy.
Well, she had you after she got married.
Yeah, my mom had me after she got married. But they didn't have a house or anything, so they went to go stay with my great grandma, you know? And so like that was my like second mom, you know? But I agree with you. I just don't know how I feel about like these gender like cultural things that are traditions and expectations for us.
Yeah, it's more like they're forced on us sometimes, and we're led to kind of believe that, you know, everything should be okay, and if you're not okay, then you're simply not doing something right.
But I want to like heavily emphasize on how much, like, at least for both of us as a couple, we have communicated with each other tremendously. It was like rough in the beginning, but obviously it's gotten better for both sides. I mean, Andrew, after I told him, like, he asked me to marry him, and I was like, okay, like, Andrew, I was gonna break up with you like next week.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, when she told me that, I was like, all right.
He was really mad at me.
Yeah, I wanted to take
I don't blame him. I would have been mad.
And then
like,
until I was like, this is why, like, because I felt like
held out 1 week.
I was like, because I felt like you were just leading me on again. Because in the beginning of our relationship, Andrew was always leading me on into like, am I going to be in a relationship with him? No, I'm not. Okay.
And it's simply because it was a lack of communication with your spouse or with
and once he told me like,
loved one.
This is why I haven't asked you. Then I was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. Like, I'm sorry I ever felt that way. Like, I should have talked to you about it, you know?
And I think we live and we learn, because obviously we're human. We're going to have those kind of thoughts and emotions because we're not perfect. We're creatures that are still learning, and simply that's how we are. That's how we are hardwired. Just we live and we learn. And unfortunately, I just wish we'd known sooner, or I wish we would have known that this wasn't normal. Like this was okay for us to struggle in order, you know, to be happy. And that's what everything leads to. It's just simply finding happiness. And if you show other people you're happy, then you got it made. But in our culture, it's
in
not
our
that way.
like.
Well, it's not just our culture, but that's just like society itself.
Yeah.
Because, you know, women at a certain age, you know, and especially you get a lot of, you know, heat from your family. Like, why aren't you married yet?
Yeah.
What happened? What's wrong with you?
Well, that was, I think that's why I had that problem too. Like, he doesn't want to marry me. Because I had so many people on my family, like, why hasn't he married you yet or asked you? You've been together for so long. What's going on, Des?
Because from the guy's point of view, I didn't get any shit from my family. At least I don't recall. Like, why aren't you marrying her yet?
And
Nobody
another
gave me
thing,
any
You
shit.
know, it's like
I got a lot of shit. And then when I moved out with Priscilla, when we shared that apartment, everyone was like, well, why would you get your own apartment? Wouldn't you wait for Andrew? Why can't you and Andrew do a thing? You know? But if we moved out together, they're like, well, why aren't you married yet?
Well,
You're
I
gonna
thought
have
that was a
sinners.
real blessed experience for you because I didn't get to live out on my own at all. I went straight into being with my husband, with my boyfriend at the time and now my husband. And I never got to experience true independence on my own.
I am very grateful for that experience. One, because like I was on my own, but two, I knew like once I moved in there, I knew for a fact that I never wanted to leave Andrew, or like I always wanted to live with him after that, because he would come over like every day, spend the night when he could, and I freaking loved it. I hated when he left, you know.
So what advice would we give to people, relationships coming up?
Obviously communication is key, but also comprehension.
Yeah.
Andrew and I would not be here if I didn't, or if he didn't tell me why he quote unquote didn't want to marry me at the time. And I think vice versa for y'all.
Oh no, I wasn't threatening to leave him. I was just going to go stay at my friend's house for a couple of days and make him sweat it out and then come home.
Yeah.
So
I never lasted a couple of days either. Maybe like one night and I was like, I missed him. I'm going to go home now. I'm going to go home
well, a lot of people, so like Mary has told me that y'all think I'm mean. I'm not, I promise. When Andrew and I first met, it was our sophomore year, and Andrew and I were off and on again. Not like together. It was like I would hang out with him and tell him I wanted to be like his girlfriend. And he was like, no. And he did this all the way until our senior year, until I finally gave him the ultimatum. I was like, you either choose me or I'm fucking done with you. And Andrew was like, all right, fine, I guess I choose you. So when he was doing that on the marriage point of view, like, I want to marry you, but I'm just not going to do it yet. He wasn't communicating to me as to why he didn't want to marry me. Again, in our culture, he had expectations for himself that he didn't tell me about. So when he was giving me, like, no, I don't want to do this because I'm just not ready. Well, why aren't you ready? I don't want to talk about it. That was always it. I was like, okay, well then I'm not going to, like, I'm done with this relationship if he's just going to toy me around like he did when we were in high school, you know? So communicate with each other, and also whatever works financially for you, because as you can see, Mary and Robert are like a shared joint bank account. Andrew and I'm going to be honest, I don't know how much he makes, and I'm okay with that. Yeah. I know if I don't have grocery bills, or if I can't afford groceries, he'll do it. If I don't want to pay for something, he'll do it.
Yeah, I guess just being completely transparent with, you know, your other half.
Don't keep secrets.
Yeah, don't keep secrets either. You know, just simply just showing how you feel, kind of giving them a sense of what's going on in your life kind of makes things a lot easier for other people.
What about y'all?
I kind of want to hear what you want to say.
About
Any
advice to other people who are thinking about getting married or in a long-term relationship.
Maybe
also, you don't have to be married.
Also,
I said, or a long-term relationship.
Yeah. Gender roles as well.
Well, that's what I was going to say. You don't have to be married. If that's not your thing, but you just want to be together forever, totally fine.
Get money, fuck bitches.
Oh my gosh.
I'm just kidding.
Robert said, fine.
Honestly,
a phone for the plug, one for the hose.
Honestly, like, my only advice that I can give to anybody is have an idea of what you want. You know, dating is great, but if you're dating somebody, it's already been a year or 2 years, and you can't see yourself with them 5-10 years from now, you're not going to see them, you know, the rest of your life from then. Does that make sense?
Marriage isn't going to fix that either.
It's not. You know, don't marry somebody out of obligation. Don't marry them out of pressure, you know, and really keep that communication open. You know, if you're living on your own and you're dating somebody and that person is, you know, pressuring to move in with you, if you're not ready, you're not ready.
Yeah.
You know, forcing a relationship to happen and work is a recipe for disaster. Mm-hmm. You know, I know that's a cliche thing to say, but it's the truth. You know, that's what builds a strong relationship. Transparency, communication, And of course, comfortability, because if you're not comfortable with that person, or there's certain comforts that are there and you're not willing to compromise on, you're not ready. That's just the truth.
Yeah.
You know, because being with somebody, living with somebody, you know,
it's totally different than dating.
It is. It's totally different. You give up some comforts, you know, for others, and you're also
vulnerability too.
Yeah, you got to open up. You got to show that vulnerable side sometimes. You know, I mean, think of it this way. You know, all the things that you're comfortable doing by yourself, somebody's gonna see.
Yeah.
On a daily basis. You know, everything you like to do by yourself, that significant other is gonna see or hear. So if you can't be yourself with that other person, you know, are they the one? You know, are you, you know, is that the role you want to put yourself in? Do you want to put yourself in a spot where you're not yourself 100% of the time? You know, that's not fair to yourself, and that's not fair to the person you're with.
Exactly.
So,
I agree.
You know,
Dang, Robert.
yeah. Steve.
That's why I wanted him to go first.
Fucking
I knew he'd be good.
philosophical.
Homie G with the Socrates ideology.
Socrates
Watch
who?
out.
And he kind of said half of what I was going to say. That was my second piece. My first piece of advice is that love is not enough to make a marriage work. It's
true.
just not. Like, you have to be loyal, and you have to have respect for each other.
Yeah.
And I think you do give up a part of yourself when you marry somebody, but it should be for something better. Like, you should be in service of something better. Like, I always think of of myself as like, I'm dedicating my life to this other person. Like, everything I do from this point on is for the family, our family, not the bigger family, which I know is common in Mexican cultures. You're bringing this person in to help the family. I don't see it that way. He's helping me. He's my family. And yes, I'll share him with everybody else, but he's still, this is my priority.
Yeah, like that saying, you married into the family.
Mm-hmm.
You married that person that may have came with that family, but that doesn't mean anything.
Mm-hmm. And one more thing too on that, you know, when you marry somebody and you have to deal with their family, be the bigger adult. Get the fuck over it, you know, and keep them at arm's length.
If something's wrong.
Yeah, set you know, personal boundaries with that person or that relative, and be like, you know, if you're going to a barbecue and you really don't like that person, say your hellos, goodbyes, and keep it short and sweet.
Don't try to force a relationship.
Don't let somebody live rent free in your house because, you know, in your mind, sorry, you know, because you dislike somebody from another family.
Don't let someone live in your house rent free. I guess to end it, whatever you and your partner are comfortable with is what should happen, in at least like in a living situation or relationship wise. Again, Andrew does the cooking, and my family doesn't like it, neither does his family, but that's what works for us, and that's what we're going to continue doing.
Well, that's a pretty good podcast we had. So
I
we're
know,
just
this is
sitting
our
up.
longest one.
I know. I think it's almost like, it's about to be an hour and 30 minutes. Wow. So I guess that concludes it. It's just having, just gender role expectations from married people, I think will be the title.
I think we should do an Instagram post where people can post questions for us about our relationships and about if they have something that they want to just get our perspective on.
Yeah.
But we'll ask our spouses and we'll respond at the end of the next episode.
I do think we're like really good like couples to look to, just because like Andrew and I were together for 7 years.
I'm gonna be honest, I'm winging this shit. And I'm not going to know the answers, but I can give you some insight on something that maybe we've experienced that might help.
And for the most part, Andrew and I are very open with our relationship. We're not an open relationship.
I was about to say,
We're very open.
So when did that change?
We're very open to like questions and I guess giving our stories.
Yeah, you guys have been together for how long?
7.5 years.
Yeah, it's about to be 8 years this year.
Damn.
Yeah.
How long have we been together?
Since 2008, 9.
So like, I think this is our 15 years.
15 years, wow.
15 year mark.
Yeah.
So you guys were also around like
yeah, they're
6
high
years.
school sweethearts.
Yeah, 6 years and then
Don't get
after
me
they got
wrong, we
married.
had our, you know,
A lot of issues.
our off times. I
Especially
guess.
in high school. It's so toxic, the environment that a high school caddy.
There were some times where she was single, I
Sorry,
was single,
Andrew.
and stuff like that.
Yeah,
Thanks
but
for
I
being
think from
patient.
like maybe when we moved in together, we
Rock solid.
yeah.
So if you have questions, let us know. And like Mary said, we're always open.
Yep, we're open to talk about it.
And you're always anonymous. I hope that helps too. So thank you so much for talking to us today or listening to us today on Now Try It With Beer. I'm Des.
And I'm Mary.
Thank you so much. See you next week.
Bye.
Bye.
And don't you forget that charcuterie board, you heard?